Welcome back to Globewise Entertainment, your ultimate destination for Hollywood's hidden gems, shocking true stories, and nostalgic classics. Today, we're diving into 10 forgotten 1985 movies that deserve to be rediscovered, films that may have slipped under the radar but are absolute treasures waiting for a second chance. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button now and join our community of movie lovers. And don't forget, as we explore these forgotten gems, tell us in the comments which movie you loved the most or can't wait to watch. 1. Stick, 1985. Burt Reynolds' underrated grit and glory. In 1985, Hollywood legend Burt Reynolds was riding the storm of fame and pain. He had been one of the biggest stars of the 70s, but by the mid-80s, his career had hit rough waters. Then came Stick, a gritty action drama based on Elmore Leonard's novel, a project Reynolds didn't just star in, but also directed himself. The story follows Ernest "Stick" Stickley, a street-smart ex-con trying to turn his life around after serving time. But when he takes a simple chauffeur job that spirals into the deadly world of drug cartels and double-crosses, Stick must use every ounce of his charm and toughness to survive. On paper, Stick had everything: a beloved star, sharp source material, and stylish Miami backdrops that screamed 1980s cool. But behind the scenes, the movie became a battle between Reynolds' creative vision and studio interference. Universal Pictures wanted a high-octane action film. Reynolds wanted a character-driven redemption story. In the end, the studio recut the movie, added reshoots, and the heart of Reynolds' version was lost. Critics panned it, audiences missed it, and Stick vanished almost overnight. But looking back, it's easy to see how misunderstood it was. Reynolds' performance carries a quiet humanity, the cinematography captures the neon grit of 80s Miami, and the film's emotional undertones about second chances hit harder today than ever. For fans of neo-noir crime thrillers and 80s tough guy cinema, Stick deserves a comeback. It's more than just another forgotten action flick. It's a bold statement from a Hollywood icon trying to prove he still had it, both behind and in front of the camera. So if you love that blend of crime, character, and charisma, Stick, 1985, is one rediscovery worth adding to your watchlist tonight. 2. Ladyhawke, 1985. The enchanted tragedy of love and curse. In the mid-1980s, fantasy films were everywhere, but Ladyhawke stood apart. Released in 1985 and directed by Richard Donner, the man behind Superman and the Goonies, this movie wasn't just another medieval adventure. It was a haunting love story wrapped in moonlight, magic, and melancholy. The tale follows a cursed couple, Captain Navarre, played by the stoic Rutger Hauer, and the radiant Isabeau, portrayed by Michelle Pfeiffer at the height of her ethereal beauty. Once lovers, they are doomed by a jealous bishop's dark curse. By day, Navarre becomes a wolf, and by night, Isabeau transforms into a hawk. Forever together, yet eternally apart. Every sunrise tears them away from each other's arms, and every sunset brings heartbreak anew. Their only hope lies in the hands of a witty thief named Philip, played by a young Matthew Broderick, whose charm and humor give the story a heartbeat amidst the tragedy. Though Ladyhawke featured breathtaking medieval scenery and a unique blend of romance and fantasy, audiences in 1985 didn't quite know what to make of it. The film struggled at the box office, partly because of its modern synthesizer soundtrack, which clashed with its old-world setting. Critics were divided. Some found it poetic and daring, while others called it confusing and uneven. But time has been kind to Ladyhawke. Today, it's celebrated as a forgotten masterpiece, a film that dared to blend timeless romance, adventure, and myth long before The Princess Bride or Legend became cult favorites. With its sweeping landscapes, emotional depth, and a love that defies fate itself, Ladyhawke remains one of those rare 1980s gems that deserves to be rediscovered by a new generation of dreamers. Because at its heart, Ladyhawke isn't just about magic. It's about love that refuses to die, no matter the curse, no matter the centuries. 3. Gotcha. 1985. the spy game you never knew existed. Long before paintball arenas and spy thrillers blended into stylish action comedies, Gotcha. 1985 gave audiences a wild mix of campus fun, Cold War tension, and unexpected romance, all wrapped in a fast-paced chase across Europe. Starring Anthony Edwards, yes, from Top Gun and ER, and the stunning Linda Fiorentino, this movie begins as a light-hearted college prank film about students obsessed with a dart gun game called Gotcha, but suddenly shifts gears into an international espionage adventure. One minute it's dorm room fun, the next, our heroes on the run from KGB agents through the streets of Berlin. What makes Gotcha so fascinating today is how it captures the paranoia and thrill of the mid-80s, when the Cold War was still hot, and technology, romance, and danger could collide in one unforgettable trip. It's got that perfect mix of youthful energy and old-school spy tension, complete with a synth-driven soundtrack and stylish 80s European backdrops that practically scream vintage cool. Despite its clever concept and strong performances, Gotcha slipped through the cracks, overshadowed by bigger spy films like Spies Like Us and The Man with One Red Shoe. But time has been kind to it. Today, it feels like an underrated blend of Ferris Bueller meets The Bourne Identity, years before that combo became popular. If you're hunting for a lost gem that balances laughter, danger, and 1980s nostalgia, Gotcha is your next weekend discovery. Just be careful. Once you start watching, you might find yourself looking over your shoulder too. 4. Volunteers, 1985. Adventure, love, and a little chaos. In the summer of 1985, audiences were swept away by big blockbusters, Back to the Future, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, and The Goonies. But hidden among these cinematic giants was a quirky, clever gem called Volunteers, a film that combined adventure, romance, and razor-sharp satire in a way few comedies dared to do. Starring Tom Hanks, just before his rise to superstardom, and John Candy, at the height of his comedic charm, Volunteers told the story of a spoiled rich kid who joins the Peace Corps, not out of compassion, but to escape a mountain of gambling debt. What starts as an act of pure selfishness turns into a journey of self-discovery deep in the jungles of Thailand, where friendship, courage, and love take unexpected root. Directed by Nicholas Meyer, best known for Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the film balances clever political humor with light-hearted adventure. It's part screwball comedy, part satire on American idealism, and part unlikely love story, featuring Hanks and Rita Wilson, who met on set and would later become one of Hollywood's most beloved real-life couples. Unfortunately, Volunteers got lost in the crowd of mid-80s mega-hits. Critics were divided. Some missed its subtle wit, while others praised its daring tone and sharp writing. Over time, it quietly faded from memory, rarely mentioned even by Hanks fans. But watching it today reveals something special, a time capsule of 1980s filmmaking, where big laughs met social commentary, and charisma ruled every scene. With its lush tropical cinematography, witty dialogue, and heartwarming chemistry, Volunteers stands as one of the most underrated comedies of its decade. If you're craving an old-school adventure that blends Indiana Jones-style escapism with a tongue-in-cheek twist, this forgotten Tom Hanks gem deserves a second chance. So dust off your VHS nostalgia. Volunteers, 1985, isn't just a lost film, it's a rediscovered treasure waiting to make you smile again. 5. Creature, 1985. The forgotten space nightmare that challenged Alien. In the mid-1980s, science fiction horror was thriving, but buried among the shadows of blockbusters like Aliens and The Thing was a low-budget gem that deserved far more credit than it ever received. That movie was Creature, 1985. Set on Saturn's icy moon Titan, Creature follows a team of explorers who uncover an ancient alien life form trapped beneath the surface. But what begins as a scientific discovery quickly turns into a fight for survival as the alien begins taking control of their minds, turning crewmates into puppets of its terrifying will. What makes Creature stand out isn't just its eerie, claustrophobic tension, but its unapologetic ambition. Made with a fraction of the budget of Hollywood's big sci-fi hits, it still managed to deliver chilling atmosphere, practical effects, and a haunting score that wrapped audiences in dread. Critics at the time dismissed it as an alien ripoff, but true sci-fi fans know Creature had its own voice. Its monster design, gruesome transformations, and moral undertones about greed and corporate control were ahead of their time. Sadly, poor marketing and limited theatrical release buried it in obscurity. But in today's age of streaming rediscoveries, Creature is finding new life. Fans who stumble upon it often call it one of the best, lost, horror sci-fi films of the 1980s, the kind of movie that proves imagination can outshine money. If you love retro space horror with that cold, creeping sense of isolation, Creature, 1985, deserves a spot on your watch list tonight. Do you remember Creature, or have you just discovered it? Tell us in the comments, and if you love finding lost sci-fi treasures like this, don't forget to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more rediscoveries from the vaults of Hollywood. 6. Explorers, 1985. The Dreamers Who Reached for the Stars. In the summer of 1985, Explorers promised audiences a magical journey into the imagination, a film where childhood dreams literally took flight. Directed by Joe Dante, the visionary behind Gremlins, and starring a young River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke in their very first movie roles, Explorers captured the pure wonder of discovery and the limitless curiosity of youth. The story follows three friends, Ben, Wolfgang, and Darren, who, after receiving mysterious dreams of a strange circuit, actually build their own homemade spaceship. With scrap metal, computer parts, and sheer determination, they do what every kid has dreamed of. They take off into space. But what makes Explorers unforgettable isn't just the sci-fi adventure, it's the heart. This was a movie about imagination, friendship, and the belief that even the smallest dreamers can touch the stars. It reflected the spirit of the 1980s, a decade obsessed with discovery and hope, while carrying a bittersweet undertone that feels timeless today. Sadly, Explorers was released just days after Back to the Future, and it got completely overshadowed at the box office. Paramount rushed the production, forcing Dante to release an unfinished version, and as a result, many incredible scenes never made it to theaters. But in recent years, Explorers has found a devoted cult following. Fans see it for what it truly is, a heartfelt ode to creativity and childhood wonder, with early performances from two actors who would go on to define a generation. Today, it's more than just a forgotten sci-fi film. Explorers is a love letter to dreamers, the kind of story that reminds us that imagination has no limits, and that the greatest adventures begin in our own backyard. 7. Silverado, 1985. Once upon a time in the mid-1980s, Westerns were considered dead. The golden era of gunfights, dusty saloons, and moral cowboys had faded into Hollywood's past. Then came Silverado, 1985, a film that didn't just tip its hat to the classics, it revived them. Directed by Lawrence Kasdan, fresh off The Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark, this ambitious Western was a love letter to everything fans adored about the genre. The friendship, the frontier justice, the breathtaking landscapes, and the unforgettable shootouts. Silverado follows four drifters, played by Kevin Kline, Scott Glenn, Danny Glover, and a young, energetic Kevin Costner, as they join forces to take down a corrupt sheriff and restore justice to a lawless town. It's a story of redemption, loyalty, and courage, all wrapped in sweeping cinematography and a rousing score that still gives goosebumps today. But here's the twist. Despite its incredible cast and glowing reviews, Silverado vanished from mainstream memory. Released during a decade obsessed with sci-fi blockbusters and action heroes, it simply couldn't compete with the flashier trends of 1985. Yet, in hindsight, this film was decades ahead of its time. Rewatching it today feels like rediscovering buried treasure. The performances are rich, the characters full of heart, and the message timeless, that even in a broken world, a small band of heroes can make things right. So if you think westerns are a thing of the past, think again. Silverado is a cinematic time machine waiting to remind you why we ever fell in love with the Wild West. 8. Ordeal by Innocence, 1985. In 1985, a chilling British mystery quietly slipped into theaters, and just as quickly vanished from public memory. But behind its modest release, Ordeal by Innocence hides a fascinating story of brilliance, tragedy, and forgotten legacy. Based on Agatha Christie's 1958 novel, this adaptation promised everything: a high society murder, psychological twists, and an all-star cast led by Donald Sutherland, Faye Dunaway, Christopher Plummer, and Sarah Miles. With that lineup, it should have been a hit, yet fate had other plans. The film opens with a wealthy matriarch, Rachel Argyle, brutally murdered in her grand estate. Her adopted son Jacko is convicted, but soon after, a stranger, played by Sutherland, appears with proof that Jacko couldn't have committed the crime. The twist? Jacko is already dead. What follows is not just a whodunit, but a haunting exploration of family secrets, guilt, and lies. But off-screen, the real mystery unfolded behind the camera. The film was plagued by production troubles and creative clashes. Director Desmond Davis was reportedly replaced late in production, and the film's score, originally composed by the legendary Pino Donaggio, was completely scrapped and rescored at the last minute. The result was a disjointed release that critics found cold and confusing. Audiences never gave it a chance, and Ordeal by Innocence faded into obscurity. Yet, with time, many now see it as an underrated gem, a film that captures Christie's darker psychological tone, far removed from the cozy parlor mysteries of Murder on the Orient Express. Even more intriguingly, it was later remade by the BBC in 2018, proving that this story still resonates, decades later. But few realize the original 1985 film remains a fascinating artifact of old-school British suspense, atmospheric, stylish, and deeply unsettling. So if you're a fan of moody mysteries, dimly lit manners, and vintage intrigue, it's time to rediscover Ordeal by Innocence, 1985, the forgotten Christie adaptation that deserved so much more than it got. 9. The Stuff, 1985. The Dessert That Devoured America. In the mid-80s, when horror movies were getting bigger, gorier, and goofier, director Larry Cohen came up with a deliciously twisted idea. What if a new dessert became so addictive, it literally started eating people from the inside out? That's the premise of The Stuff, a satirical horror gem that most people have forgotten, but absolutely deserves to be rediscovered. The movie begins when miners stumble upon a strange white goo bubbling up from the ground. It's sweet, creamy, and oddly irresistible. Soon, it's being sold in stores nationwide as The Stuff, a miracle dessert that everyone can't stop eating. But beneath its sugary surface lies something far more sinister. As the popularity of The Stuff explodes, people begin acting differently. They crave it uncontrollably. They defend it like a cult. And one by one, they start losing their humanity, literally becoming vessels for the living substance inside them. Enter M.O. Rutherford, played by Michael Moriarty, a former FBI agent hired by rival dessert companies to uncover the secret behind this mysterious product. What he finds is both absurd and horrifying. The Stuff is a parasitic organism, consuming its hosts from within and spreading like a corporate virus through America's consumer culture. Larry Cohen uses this wild premise to make a biting commentary on 1980s consumerism, addiction, and corporate greed. It's part horror, part comedy, and part social satire. Imagine Invasion of the Body Snatchers meets Ghostbusters, but with frozen yogurt that kills you. Even though The Stuff had a modest budget and didn't make waves at the box office, it's now a cult classic, admired for its originality, practical effects, and Cohen's fearless storytelling. Its blend of camp and commentary makes it more relevant than ever today, in an era obsessed with trends and instant gratification. So if you love 80s horror that dares to be different, this is one movie you need to dig up again. Just, maybe skip dessert while you watch it. 10. 1985. The boy who wasn't just human. In 1985, when audiences were falling in love with Back to the Future and The Goonies, a quiet little sci-fi gem called D.A.R.Y.L slipped under the radar. But beneath its simple title was one of the most heartfelt and thought-provoking stories of the decade. The film follows a young boy named D.A.R.Y.L, who seems too perfect to be true, polite, brilliant, and gifted beyond his years. What his foster parents don't know is that D.A.R.Y.L isn't an ordinary child at all, he's an experiment. A government-created android with a human appearance, data-analyzing robot youth life form, or simply D.A.R.Y.L. What begins as a wholesome family story soon turns into a powerful exploration of humanity itself. D.A.R.Y.L learns friendship, love, and what it means to have a soul, things no scientist could ever program. But when the military comes to reclaim their property, the film takes an emotional turn that still hits hard decades later. At its heart, D.A.R.Y.L is a story about innocence in a world obsessed with control, a child who was built by machines but learns to be more human than the people who made him. Despite its strong performances, beautiful score, and ahead-of-its-time message about artificial intelligence, the movie was overshadowed by blockbuster giants of 1985. Yet today, it feels more relevant than ever, especially in an age where AI and technology blur the lines between man and machine. If you grew up in the 80s, D.A.R.Y.L will hit you right in the nostalgia. And if you've never seen it, this forgotten gem deserves a place on your rediscovery list. Because sometimes, the most human stories come from those who aren't human at all. That wraps up our journey through 10 forgotten 1985 movies that deserve to be rediscovered. Which of these hidden gems surprised you the most? Or maybe there's one you've been dying to watch again. Drop your favorite in the comments below. We love hearing from you. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Globewise Entertainment and hit that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into Hollywood's forgotten treasures, shocking true stories, and nostalgic classics. Rediscover the magic, relive the memories, and let's keep the conversation going. Your next favorite movie could be just a click away.